Today, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled Governor Tony Evers can ban conversion therapy. That's the discredited practice of using therapy to try and convert people to heterosexuality.
Our Wisconsin State Capitol Bureau Chief Vanessa Kelson breaks down the case.
Just so much gratitude to see that this rule is in effect. This ban does exist.
That's Abigail Sweats, the director of Fair Wisconsin, the state's only statewide LGBTQ+ advocacy org.
Conversion therapy is so harmful because it is attempting to do something that is not possible.
She's celebrating Tuesday's Supreme Court decision, along with Democratic Governor Tony Evers, who writes, quote, "A handful of Republican lawmakers should not be able to single-handedly and indefinitely obstruct state agencies."
This is a powerful step in the right direction.
But this case is not explicitly about conversion therapy. It's about power. In a statement, the state's top Republican Speaker Robin Vos says Tuesday's decision, quote, strips the legislature of its check and balance powers and bestows even more power to the executive branch. In a 4-3 decision, the liberal majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court decided a legislative committee can't block or repeal actions from a state agency, restricting the power of the Republican-controlled legislature. But what does that mean for conversion therapy?
Basically, what this means is that this rulemaking legislative committee can't block that conversion therapy ban again going forward.
And that's Brenna Gadar, a staff attorney at UW-Madison, who explains the committee tried to block Evers' ban 2 times before. But now, not anymore. From the Wisconsin State Capitol, Vanessa Kelson.